On this week's episode, Ant-Man heads to Quantumania, Andor heads to prison, and DC gets a new gun. All this and more as we celebrate 300 episodes. And we once again reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with the 300th episode of the PCC Multiverse. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And there are 300 great shows in the multiverse and even more of the cosmos. And if you can, while you're doing it, give us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do whatever it is that you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, the Lakers Fast Break, Vampires, and Vitae, the Wizards and Wine with Wild Beyond the Witchlight, and all the great things that Melinda and Rob are doing right there for you wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, subscribe to them today on YouTube. Also, as well, you can go ahead and check out everything that we do at popculturecosmos.com. Also, as well, Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. Okay, we have got tons and tons of hours of tabletop RPG goodness right there for you. Back episodes of Wizards and Wine, back episodes of Wild Beyond the Witchlight, back episodes of Vampires and Vitae. Roger is now going crazy with the streaming now for Demolition Force on Mondays. Plus also the great games that Mitch runs for you right there on the weekend. Go ahead, check it out if you're a tabletop RPG stan, as the kids say these days. I was at a concert this week and there was no fan. There were just stands right there for K-pop. So go ahead and check out what they're doing today at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, where you can catch the latest news and trends in pop culture. And if you do all that, it is sincerely appreciated. I was actually also stalling for time, waiting on the signal if you can go ahead from red to yellow to now green. So I was like, oh, okay, she's green now. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse or a 300th PCC Multiverse without my good friend. She is the mastermind. Don't tell Robbie Ross, but she is the mastermind behind everything that we do regarding tabletop RPGs here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Also, as well, Vampires and Vitae, Wizards and Wine with Wild Beyond the Witchlight, and so much more. It is my good friend. It is the master of all voiceovers. It is Melinda Barkhouse-Ross. And Melinda, I feel like Gerard Butler without the abs. And this is Sparta. This is Sparta because it is 300 episodes right now.
300, yeah. I can't believe it's been over a year already.
Absolutely. She was like, no, I haven't been here a year. I've been here. When was the last time I was here? So I just hit a random number. I said 247. Yeah. She's right on there. There you go. There you go. So you've been here a while.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Hey, what can I say? What can I say? You like hanging around. You like talking pop culture. And everybody out there, first off, for all the thank yous I've got, and I've got a few coming up, I want to go ahead and first thank you, the viewer and the listener out there that have actually partaken in one of our episodes of the PCC Multiverse. If you have done at some point in time in your day, we are truly honored and appreciative of your efforts in listening or watching to us right here at the PCC Multiverse. Plus also, not only Melinda Barkhouse-Ross, I do have a thank you for her. I do have a thank you for Josh Peterson, my cohort in crime on everything Pop Culture Cosmos. He was here for many of the PCC Multiverses. Also as well, my good friend, Mr. Marcus de la Garza. Want to give him a shout out. Want to say thank you so much for all the time that you spent on this show. Plus TJ Johnson, Ben Arnault, all the individuals that have been a part of this show, Jamie Monroy, all the people who have hosted this show with me for the PCC Multiverse. Cannot thank you enough for stopping by in the PCC Multiverse. And Melinda, again, a big shout out to you because you've been here so long.
Well, I am shocked at the number.
Don't be leaving next week because I said that.
Right. My time here is done.
No, no, no. Don't you be doing that. Otherwise, I will say you just started with PCC Multiverse 297.
Yeah, there is. That feels a little more reasonable.
Okay, fair enough. This is our new rookie here at the PCC Multiverse, Melinda Barkhouse-Ross. But speaking of pop culture, we've got a ton to talk about. I will mention that Jeff Sabota is going to be on the back end of the show. He's going to be talking about his epitaph on Werewolf by Night and also as well She-Hulk. His thoughts on season 1 of that series for the MCU. What are his thoughts? Do they differ from mine? They do on one show, but don't in another. Find out his thoughts on the back end of the show. Plus also as well, Melinda and I have got a lot to cover when it concerns all the shakeups that are going on at DC. The big announcement by Henry Cavill. What's going on with that? We'll talk about the big shakeup and movements as far as new bosses, one of which is very familiar that you would know. And in fact, it happened on the same day his Marvel project came around, as far as a trailer for that. We'll talk about that coming up in a bit. Plus, also as well, we're going to talk about Tar with Cate Blanchett. What is Tar? We're going to talk about a movie that is possibly also, like we did last week, a front runner for the Oscars. We'll talk about Tar with Cate Blanchett. That's coming up in a bit. Andor episode 8 reminds me of a George Lucas project a long way back. We'll talk about what project that is coming up in a bit. Plus, also as well, Call of Duty players, you know what time it is. It is time once again for a new IP, a new iteration of the Call of Duty franchise, the franchise which you love so much, the franchise which is getting an uproar from Sony, not letting Microsoft live it down for the possibility Call of Duty may once, sometime down the road end at some point in time. Their streak on Sony, but that's not for now because Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 hits store shelves this weekend. So we'll talk about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the current thoughts on it, the reviews, and what its score is. We'll talk about if you should go out and get Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. That's coming a bit. But my friend, I will tell you that there's a lot to talk about when it concerns the Marvel Universe because Marvel did something very unusual. They debuted not one, but two trailers for upcoming projects with still, of course, Black Panther Wakanda Forever coming in just a few weeks. And they actually had the premiere for that, and the first reactions are very good indeed from what I hear. But your thoughts on these? We'll start off with the first of the trailers that came out, and that was Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, which is the third Ant-Man movie, which is coming out on February 17th of next year. They delve once again into the world, the quantum world. This time they go even deeper with an actual city, which is an actual location, and who is behind the city once they find in the quantum universe, which they accidentally got there by way of Cassie Lang, the daughter of Scott Lang in the movie, is none other than Kang, or a version of Kang is actually controlling and pulling all the strings. Your thoughts on this? As far as were you impressed by it? Was it something that intrigued you? Your thoughts on Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and the first trailer.
Okay, I have to preface this one with I could watch Paul Rudd read the phone book to a jack-o'-lantern and be thoroughly entertained for 2.5 hours.
He is the sexiest man in America.
I need to start there. But after that, I love that we have some Michelle Pfeiffer in this movie. And I'm very intrigued by it. And, I don't know if it's enough to get me into a theater yet, but it's right there. That's how interested I am after watching the trailer. I'm like, okay, maybe it's Ant-Man. Maybe Ant-Man is going to be the one to finally get me back into that theater.
Well, you may change your mind on Paul Rudd in the phone book after you watch Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers that he did in the 1990s. So, just saying because it's that time of the season. So, if you actually can go ahead and tolerate him through that, then I will probably believe you on the phone book thing. But the sexiest man in America right there, he is actually someone who's still a much beloved character. And I was actually talking about this on Jeff Svoboda's show, the MCU's Bleeding Edge, when I appeared on his show this week in regards to the fact that this is a much beloved franchise within the halls of Marvel. It is not a much beloved franchise with general fans because the dollar amount and the fact the popularity of it has not reached the heights of the other movies within the Marvel realm, the Thors, the Iron Mans, the Guardians of the Galaxy, what have you, all the top names there. It has only achieved a certain level and not gone beyond that. This movie looks really good. This trailer looks really good and inviting. It was actually set to the music of Elton John's Yellow Brick Road, which I thought was an outstanding choice. And, that was very prophetic the way they use that because they go off the Yellow Brick Road in a sense in this movie. So I'm really looking forward to it. We're wondering how Bill Murray, even though, yes, I know he's being canceled at the present time, but he is still in this movie, how his character is being utilized. I'm assuming it's a bad guy. I heard rumors that it's based off a bad guy. So that is not going to be a stretch for him at this point in time. I'm still interested to see how Cassie Lang is being developed because she is going to become a young Avenger. So she gets the purple suit in this film already, as we've seen in the trailers. It's just really interesting the way that they're doing it. This hopefully will be the film, because this will probably be the last Ant-Man and the Wasp film. This hopefully will be the film that will finally get Ant-Man and the Wasp out there in massive popularity to the level that I think that they deserved. And I know that the reason why that Marvel's stuck with them is because they've always believed in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and hopefully their belief will finally come. I hope that their belief in them will finally pay off with a big hit for Marvel.
Yeah, that's the hope for sure. Because, when you sit through, gosh, 3 now Thor movies that were just, couple of those that were real bad.
There's been 4, by the way, total.
Yeah, right. But the first one wasn't too bad, right? I don't know. I remember
the first
falling
one was-
asleep.
The
But
first one was The second one was yuck. The third one
Yeah.
was the one that people like, Ragnarok. And then the fourth
Right.
one, let's not just go there.
yeah, we just won't talk about that one at all. But, you have Thor with these movies, and then people just automatically go out and see it because it's a Thor film, right?
Mhm.
But
Or an Iron Man film, or
Yeah.
a Captain America film.
right. But the Ant-Man movies have yet to disappoint.
They're really fun. They're really fun.
They are.
They're not compelling or really out there. They're just fun films to watch.
It's a popcorn flick tied to the MCU.
Bingo.
So yeah, and it stars Paul Rudd. I'm sorry, but I just find him so entertaining to be on the big screen. I was watching bloopers of him and Will Ferrell when they did Anchorman together, and it was just, like my stomach hurt. I was laughing so hard watching these bloopers. So you can't go wrong, I don't think, with Paul Rudd in any kind of role. And when I first found out he was cast as Ant-Man, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to buy Paul Rudd as a superhero. But it's so incredibly well. And this is just another film, the Paul Rudd catalog of, I'm just going to have a Paul Rudd day today. It's Sunday. It's Paul's day.
Absolutely. And his next film will be Paul Rudd reads the phone book for Melinda. Yeah.
God, I hope so. That'd be so great.
Absolutely. I'm not sure Robbie will like that, but hey, there you go. But I will say, well, I don't know. I don't think he'll like that.
I mean, he's not
Well,
mad
you know
about
what?
Paul Rudd. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Okay. I am. Well, my wife likes anything. My wife likes all the Chris's out there. So if it, just
Yeah.
if it gets her calling me Chris, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine by me. But I will say that the second trailer that came out the next day, which was surprising to me, that Marvel usually lets things breathe at least a week or two, especially with Wakanda Forever coming out. But the next thing they put right after that, the day after, they put out the first trailer for the holiday special for Guardians of the Galaxy, which was mainly centered around Drax and Mantis, which I love that dynamic because Drax is still, Mantis is in love with Drax, and Drax, the way he just keeps going back at her as far as him not really realizing anything, and just, as far as what's going on. And with that part of it, but the fact that they are trying to go ahead and cheer up Star-Lord, that's the basis of this trailer, because he's still bummed that he is not able to go ahead and get Zoe Saldana's, the actual Zoe Saldana's character that we saw in Avengers Endgame, and try and get her back, in his life. She is now zoomed off into space somewhere, and he is just left heartbroken. And now it's come to the point where they figure out the best way to cheer him up is to try and bring him a present in the form of Kevin Bacon. So they go ahead and head to Kevin Bacon's house, who has been referenced in Infinity War and in the first original Guardians Galaxy. So they're tying everything in there. James Gunn is once again doing a great job, and we'll talk about James Gunn again on this show. But your thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy, the holiday special, which they are which they are patterning after, which they are patterning after the original Star Wars holiday special.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's what they based it off in a much better, much more positive way, I should say.
Sure, yeah. But no, I'm here for anything that gives me a jolt of Christmas without having to watch the Hallmark Channel.
Yes.
Not that I have a problem with the Hallmark movies. Please don't get me wrong. I do indulge. However, this won't feel so much as an indulgence as it will be sitting down for some delicious Christmas dessert.
You get what you get when it concerns those movies on the Hallmark Channel, and they make a ton of cash and they get a ton of views. So I cannot sit here and disparage or say anything bad about them, because they have a formula.
Mm-hmm.
It's in all their movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's coming. You know when it's coming. You know what's going on. You know who's going to get with whom. You know who's going to end up with whom by the time the credits roll. It's not a shock. It's not a secret. It's right there in their secret sauce, which is not so secret, and that's why they make the money that they do at Hallmark. That's why they continue. That's why if cable ever dies, there's just going to be the standalone station of all Hallmark Channel. As far as, because there's going to be always people wanting to watch that. But I will say that this is something that I think it's going to be really cute. Something that is going to be maybe 45 minutes long, maybe an hour long at best, and something that, again, it's a special presentation that they modeled after the old. In fact, the graphic design that you actually first saw in Werewolf by Night is actually modeled after the old CBS special presentation logo, and actual just the whole theme and all that was going on. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with this. I really think they're going to have fun. Again, this is James Gunn's, I guess, first part of his bidding adieu to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because this is his last go around, because obviously he's going to have other things to do right now, as again we'll mention here later in a bit. But I mean, I think this is just going to be another fun way to go ahead and spend the holidays. I think it's also a nice little band-aid after Wakanda Forever, and the fact is that you won't have anything until your Paul Rudd comes out in Ant-Man Quantumania.
Yeah, that's right. But, I guess one way to look at it is, according to the Hallmark Channel, all of the answers to your life's problems are in a small town. But with the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, all of the answers are at Kevin Bacon's house. So
what is it? 6 degrees to 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Happiness is 6 degrees away.
There you go. Absolutely. I mean, we could play that right now, and I think we would get stumped, because there's actually pretty much every star right now in Hollywood, or even co-star, or even random star. You could probably take 6 steps or less to Kevin Bacon. So,
yeah, I feel like you could get to Kevin Bacon a lot quicker than I could, though. It's very strange.
Yeah, that's true.
The whole game. Yeah, I just feel like you could get there much quicker than I could. Anyway.
Oh yeah. Footloose. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's right. He's next man. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's probably true.
Yeah, we'll play it sometime. It'll be fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What dedicated episode? No, I don't think so. That would probably be way too crazy. But well, no, if you ask for it, go ahead, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Please let us know if you want us to dedicate an episode to 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. We'll do that. We dedicated part of an episode to Wordle. So, you know what? All bets are off there. So, what are your thoughts out there, though, on Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and also as well the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday Christmas trailers? Both of them debuted this week at Marvel. So if you have any thoughts on it, did you enjoy it? Are you excited for these upcoming Marvel projects? Please let us know your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, there's still much more to talk about on today's program. Speaking of what's going on with Marvel and DC and all the superhero stuff going on, because it almost is every week that I guess a prolific director, one of the most prolific directors that are out there, like Denis Villeneuve or Martin Scorsese. This week was James Cameron talking, bad about Marvel and all DC and all the superhero films. This time, I think he related the Marvel Cinematic Universe to a bunch of college kids. They act like they're in college, but need I digress on that. The thing I wanted to talk about is the DC shakeup that happened at DC Comics. I told you last week that Walter Hamada did step down. The individual that they had to replace him, that they had already set to replace him, unfortunately decided not to take the gig. So now it looks like they not only have one person to lead the charge, but two people to lead the charge. Your thoughts on this? Because Peter Safran, major producer with a ton of movies under his belt, and none other than James Gunn himself of the Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy fame, they are both now been tasked to lead up the DCEU going forward, both in a film and television basis. Your thoughts on the hires and where this will take the DCEU next? Because right now, there's some issues going on. Obviously, what's going on with Flashpoint. Black Adam did okay, didn't do great, but did okay enough to go ahead and keep that going for a while. Obviously, announcement from Henry Cavill after the cameo that he did in Black Adam that he is now here to stay once again as Superman in his return. Your thoughts on where the DCEU could go next with Peter Safran, a major producer in Hollywood, signing up to lead the charge at DC, along with James Gunn himself?
Oh, I mean, if you could put together a dream team, is there anybody left to add to that?
Right now, no. Off the top of my head, I think that's a good start. The only thing is they didn't decide on one. It always concerns me when you're heading up a major part of this with not just one, but two individuals, unless they're a prolific team that has consistently worked together over the years. And that has not been the case. Like, for instance, if the Coen brothers were named to the DCEU, you would say, okay, or the Duffer brothers, they would be, or, obviously the Russo brothers, okay, those guys have all worked together on projects together extensively, so they know how to work with each other. You're talking about putting two individuals who are very familiar with each other, but not to the point where they have done everything together. Now you're asking them to head up to both the movie and TV part of it. I just see a situation where it should go well, but if it doesn't, it could lead up to what happened with Marvel with the TV side of it. The head of the TV and that other side as far as non-Marvel film stuff being let go and letting Kevin Feige just oversee everything from going on forward. I just not sure when I see two people doing the job that I think one should be doing.
Well, see, it really does depend on what their actual kind of job titles come down to. If one person is more in control of story and character development, and the other person is more, in charge of, the implementation of these stories and, breaking them down to what's more suitable for TV, what's more suitable for movies. And then perhaps one takes the TV, one takes the movies, but they both understand, where the TV and movie crossovers need to happen, because they do need to happen. Let's be honest. Fans, because of Marvel, now have this kind of expectation. And when you don't deliver on that, it feels like a letdown. It feels like you've been sloppy. It feels like you haven't done your homework. So I think, assuming that everyone gets to behave like a grown up, and let's face it, that's the hardest thing to do sometimes, is to act like an actual grown up, and set an ego aside and be able to sit down and, get down to work and really try to hammer out something, worthy of fans who've been just waiting and waiting and waiting for DC to put out something that is consistent and interesting. And I think that these two names attached, giving me a breath of hope, at least.
Okay. Fair enough. So I will go ahead and hit this up to you right now. So let's say
Okay.
you
Mm-hmm.
and Robbie Ross, the
Mm-hmm.
Rosses together, were
Mm-hmm.
named as the heads of DC and the DCEU. So you're in charge of all movie and television production going forward for the DCEU. Where would you start and what would you do?
Well, the first thing I would do is cast myself as Batman. No, I'm
Nice.
kidding. I'm kidding. No, of course not. But
You go
the
around there
first,
practicing, I'm Batman. I'm
yeah,
Batman.
absolutely. Yeah, I may rename my bathroom the Bat Cave. I don't know, but no, there's a few things I think that I would try to do. I think that the Bat flick, you know, I know a lot of people had a lot of problems with Ben Affleck as Batman, and
I know, but I liked him. I didn't think he was
yeah,
bad.
I
I
didn't
didn't
think he was either. Was he? I feel like every actor who is cast as Batman is either stronger as Bruce Wayne or as Batman. Don't think that have found the actor who can portray both sides of Batman equally as well and believably. Well, you
well,
know what? Christian Bale pretty kind of knocked the socks off of that role, to be honest.
hmm.
But I digress. I think that I would start with a couple of things that were Batman centric, and I would start a couple of things that were very Superman centric. And once I had those kind of established and a few storylines set up, then I would start to add other characters. I would look at doing like a Robin film, even. Then, you have Wonder Woman who has been successful and who has not been successful. She has some room to grow and some story to tell there. I would probably start looking at that kind of thing. Does this need to be a complete and absolute reboot? Is that what the role of Black Adam truly was about, as being a new starting point for DC? That's the question that I have. And I'm excited to see, where these two guys are going to kind of drop the mic, so to speak, and really kind of dig in and get down to work.
One of the things I would do is I
Mm-hmm.
would focus in on how the TV side of it is going to evolve your DCEU and not just put side characters like Peacemaker, which actually that series did well for HBO and HBO Max. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
slide that in the least. And I know that they have a Commissioner Gordon series with Jeffrey coming on the way. And then also they have a Penguin series that's coming on the way. So I
Don't
know that
forget
they
about
have.
Batman's butler.
Yeah, well, that one, that's true. Pennyworth, but Pennyworth has been out in different forms. It was on Epix, I believe, for a while before it switched over to HBO. So
Right.
yeah, he's been out for a little while, and I'm not sure that show is large enough to go ahead and move the needle for DCEU fans. I think that it was presented on a small stage, and even though it's on a bigger stage now, I still think it's going to be, thought of in a small sense because of where it started and where it emanated from. I don't equate it to the same way that, for instance, like Cobra Kai, because Cobra Kai was first a YouTube show, and YouTube is still a major platform for views in and of itself before it got on Netflix. But I digress. I think I would focus in on trying to build the TV side of it because of what help HBO Max needs at this point in time. Because we thought they were doing really great heading into 2022, and the wool was pulled over my eyes because of how bad that they ended up doing financially in the first part of the year and all the cuts that they made since. And I
Mm-hmm.
really think that the DCU, the story and foundational building can be done better on a TV platform, which is what they need to help them grow. I liken it to like a tree. Have a nice foundation, make sure it's fertilized and make sure it's watered real good as far as on the bottom end first so that it can grow into something strong on the top end. And I really think that maybe they should focus on that and just stick with uh, the Aquamans and the Jokers of the world that get them enough money to go ahead and satisfy them before they go ahead and redo the entire Flashpoint universe in one swoop that especially with an actor that could obviously get up to 25 years in prison for burglary here, which he's currently on trial for. So I just think right now that I would first focus on the television end of it, try to build characters and stories that are going to help blossom the DCEU and put it in a place that it can grow into something more satisfying for viewers going forward.
Yeah, I agree with that. See, we could work very well together. I can flesh out the storylines for movies, and you can take over the TV side, and they're just the ghostwriters for us. It's us behind the scenes.
There you go. So the new heads of DC are Melinda and Robbie Ross, and of course me, Gerald Glassford. We are the new heads of DC. All right, there you go.
Yep.
No, I'm kidding.
Yep.
The actual new heads of DC are Peter Safran and James Gunn, which is again, I can't. They both have a long resume. Of course, James Gunn has been very successful within the superhero realm, and I'm very excited to see what both are going to do. You know what? And especially Kevin Feige, he was very supportive of the decision that was made by James Gunn to go ahead and take that slot, and said, you know what, I'm going to be first in line to go ahead and check out anything that he does in the DC universe. That's the type of rhetoric you want to hear. That's the type of rhetoric, and I know you're a PlayStation fan, but that's the type of rhetoric I hear Phil Spencer say all the time from Xbox, even about PlayStation stuff. He's always very complimentary on Nintendo and Sony whenever he can, and I think the same goes here. And again, this will lead hopefully for fans to go ahead and just appreciate good stuff going forward from DC and Marvel, and especially DC now going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think sometimes too, perhaps I'm more guilty of this than a lot of people, but I often sometimes slips my mind that these are a lot of stories and characters that have decades and decades and decades of comic book stories behind them. So really, you can go ahead and you can find the most obscure comic book storyline and turn it into, a heck of a couple of movies or something along those lines. There's a million different ways for them to go. And part of the real pressure of that job is knowing like which fat to trim and what parts to keep and what parts to develop and what parts to let go of a little bit. That's got to be, my gosh, I can't imagine taking something like that and trying to cook it down to a stew.
Well, we'll see if they can go ahead and make the stew and make it good for audiences, as Peter Safran, producer extraordinaire, and James Gunn from Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad now head up the DC universe. Share us your thoughts if you think this is the right move for DC going forward. Please let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, coming up next, it is Jeff Sloboda from the MCU's Bleeding Edge, his thoughts on She-Hulk. And right after that, Melinda and I are going to be talking some Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, Andor Episode 8, and what is Tar with Cate Blanchett? Could this be the vehicle that gets her an Oscar? We'll talk about that coming up after the break. This is the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with the 300th episode of the PCC Multiverse. It's Gerald Glassford along with Melinda Barkhouse-Ross. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Want to thank so much Jeff Sloboda from the MCU's Bleeding Edge for stopping by. But before we head on out, can you please share us or give us an update on this 300th episode of the PCC Multiverse on what you are doing right now at Vampires and Vitae, and also as well Wild Beyond the Witchlight with Wizards and Wine.
Okay, so let's start with Vampires and Vitae. Our characters this Sunday. By the way, I have to finish editing last week's episode, but that's neither here nor there. But this week, I believe we are headed to London, a new location full of new NPCs and new. Unless you followed season 1, if you followed season 1, where we end up in London, if we get there, is going to be very familiar to you. And a much beloved NPC from our first season is back. So we're all very happy about it. I'm thrilled to be having a conversation with this NPC again. I thought he was lovely in season 1. So I'm thrilled that he's back for this like mini campaign that we're doing for season 2 right now. For Wizards and Wine, our next episode actually lands on Halloween.
Ooh.
So I know, so exciting and so spooky. So I think instead of running something just straight up for the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, I think I'm going to throw in a one shot, and I think it may include a visit from Strahd. Ha, ha.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's kind of some ideas that I'm toying around with for the next couple of days. But a new episode of Vampires and Vitae tomorrow. Of course, the live stream back on Sunday. And then on Monday for Halloween, we have a special episode coming for Wizards and Wine.
There you go. And you can catch her today and also Robbie Ross right there for you. Vampires and Vitae on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, Wild Beyond the Witchlight, part of the Wizards and Wine Emporium, right there on YouTube as well. Well, my friend, before we head on out, a few last topics to cover. Wanted to hear your thoughts on this Tar. It's been in limited release, but it gets expanded this weekend with Cate Blanchett. It is this very, I guess, actor-driven movie that I'm really thinking, really hearing good things about. Cate Blanchett is heading up as a role as far as a conductor in an orchestra, and she's also doing other strange things as far as discovery is concerned in her life and what's going on in it. And the character that she's portraying is just really just fascinating as far as what I've seen in the trailers and sneak peeks so far. It has actually earned a lot of praise and actually up for a lot of awards already with the Gotham Awards in New York, I believe, if not mistaken. That's already garnered a lot of acclaim, and that movie is actually up front as far as leading the nominations for that. She is obviously, in my opinion, one of the front runners already for a Best Actress nomination for the Oscar for this performance. Your thoughts on Tar with Cate Blanchett?
Well, I mean, it's Cate Blanchett. What on earth are you possibly going to say to deter people from wanting to go and see this movie? You want to talk about one of the most incredibly talented actors of our time. I think you can absolutely pencil in Cate Blanchett right there.
Mm-hmm.
Her, Meryl Streep, come on, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
But I love that she is taking on this role. I think that,
It's
you know,
Lydia Tarr who she's portraying, the real life conductor extraordinaire who's been the major forces of music of this past century.
yeah. And when I was in so Canada, junior high and high school, we had obviously band class. So I, played in band and, did the whole thing and learned a lot of not as much as I should have about music theory and
I'm marching
conducting
in rhythm
and
now.
right and all of that kind of stuff. But I think that the world of what it takes to be a orchestral conductor. I don't even think that that's correct, but what it takes to be a conductor in front of an orchestra and being able to control that many instruments and that many players and have your vision of the sound that they produce be what the audience hears and absorbs. That's not really something that we've seen, you know, turned into a story. And I'm very intrigued by this one. And not just because it's Cate Blanchett, but also because I think that this is a very compelling story. And I think it's one of those stories where you're going to leave theater, and I think that this is really going to stick with you for a little while.
I think it is as well. It's a very compelling story. Again, it touches on one of the greatest composers in music history and one of the greatest orchestral composers of the last century, that's for sure. And someone who has been so much of an influence on classical music as a whole of the past few decades. Just happy to see that she's been portrayed just outstandingly by Cate Blanchett, and just so happy for this movie to being presented and getting the kind of love that it is. So definitely hoping for some good returns on it, along legs, as they say, as far as in the movies, as far as being out for an extended period of time and getting continual reception throughout. So we'll see what happens. Currently, I believe holds a 90 on Metacritic is the last time I checked out. It's obviously getting great acclaim, and again, it's leading up the awards for the Gotham Awards as far as the leading up the nominations for the Gotham Awards. So that's very compelling in and of itself. So Definitely want to hear your thoughts out there. If you're going to go ahead and get a chance to see Tar with Cate Blanchett, I think that it is going to be one of the movies people are talking about for Oscars, and at least one of the more important performances, one of the biggest performances, and obviously a contender for not only Picture of the Year but Best Actress for Cate Blanchett. So we want to hear your thoughts on Tar. If you're going to go ahead and check it out, please let us know. PopCultureCosmos@yahoo.com. So,
One more
well,
thing before
before
we
we get
leave this.
to Call of Duty Modern War, okay, sure.
Sorry. It's a little bit silly, and you feel free to cut it from the show if you need to. But what a wonderful to learn how to cast spells for your wizard character at your D&D table than going to see this Cate Blanchett movie and learning to command a performance the way a conductor can do it. If you really
Absolutely.
want
Either
to,
that or watch.
if you really want to RP your wizard, start watching Conductors. Trust me, it's going to
There
change
you
your whole
go.
world.
It will indeed. Either that or watch Hocus Pocus 2, which I just saw the other day. Nielsen rated out the days in the first days that it came out. It actually garnered over 2.7 billion hours of viewing, one of the biggest viewing entities in the history of streaming. So more props to Hocus Pocus 2 and Disney Plus for actually getting that all together. So can't wait to see what people are conjuring up here with that, but also as well Tar with Cate Blanchett. So please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos@yahoo.com. Well, I checked out Andor episode 8 right now. It just focuses on what happened with Cassian Andor and the fact that he got captured by the Empire, but under a different name and identity, so no one knows it's actually him. He still has the money from the heist hidden away on a vacation planet he was actually hiding at, and ended up getting arrested under another identity. He gets sent to a penal colony, working in a factory, and who's in charge of his unit that's he's making actual products for in a factory for the Empire, as far as stuff that actually will be used by the Empire, probably against the rebels and other people and other innocents that are out there that only the Empire can do. But who is leading up as far as the I guess the crew chief behind all this, none other than Andy Serkis himself, is really just, it was a surprise out of left field. And this was so interesting. See, he's also an inmate like Cassian Andor, but since he has a short time, less than a year left on his sentence, he has now been promoted to the point where he is actually overseeing these other prisoners do the manufacturing. But the thing I want to touch on is the sound design and the visuals of this episode. First off, the music was very Blade Runner-ish, but also at times distorted intentionally, as far as on one side of the glass or the other for an interrogation scene, but also as well from just the way they at times correctly and timely distorted the music and distorted voices to go ahead and sound appropriate to what was going on there. But the look and the feel reminded me so much of George Lucas's one of his first projects. I think it's THX 1147 that starred Robert Duvall. It actually was, I think, was a class project for him at USC. Excuse me, Fight On if you're a Trojan fan, which I am, and I actually, hopefully, we'll go ahead and go back to one of these days. But finish my master's there. But I wanted to go ahead and talk to you about this episode because it reminds me so much and has so many Easter eggs of Star Wars gone by. Your thoughts on this? Because again, this could have taken a very mundane episode about him in a penal colony making gears or whatever engine parts for whatever destructive force or destructive tools that the Empire is going to use it on. But instead did it in such a quirky way and did such an interesting way. And also the fact that the rebels that are out and about trying to find him, at the same time the Empire is still trying to find him. All these sides are still trying to find them, not knowing that he's actually been caught by the Empire and on this penal colony. All this tying into each other makes it for a very interesting episode. I know you're not caught up with it yet, but what are your thoughts when you hear me say that, especially invoking the past as far as Star Wars using Blade Runner and also THX 1147 that history making project that George Lucas made that has obviously gotten him to, that was a start of something great for George Lucas.
It's wonderful. And I love it when movies and shows
I'm
have
sorry,
interesting.
I'm sorry, let me say it. THX 1138. 1138.
Okay. Um, I love it so much when shows and movies play with and not that I'm, incredibly talented when it comes to sound design, but I love to play with, an audio track and to be able to add to it or, have all of this filled and then, have it all drop away and only have the voices left. Like that stuff, it just hits you and you can so much emotion and so much passion, really an idea and something special with the right kind of sound design. They could have go as usual without any design, and it probably would have been fine. May have been some people who may have called it, another filler episode or whatever, but I think adding that clever sound design and playing with that a little bit, and at the same time paying homage to where everything got started with Lucas, I think is brilliant, and I love that they are thinking outside of the box for it. It definitely is getting closer and closer to the top of my list of shows that I want to watch, just because you've told me about that.
Again, if you've ever seen THX 1138 and you see the influence that had on his career and also with a lot of other directors going forward as far as what that led into with Star Wars later on and all the things that he had a fascination with, because those early 1960s, 1970s sci-fi, it paved the way as far as for what we saw later on with Star Wars and this whole universe. So obviously THX, as far as from a sound design standpoint, THX stereo, the THX name comes from it, but definitely the influence from THX 1138 is there for me as far as checking that out. But if you get a chance, check out Andor episode 8 and tell me your thoughts, please, whenever you can. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode, but you know what time of the year it is. And even though that Call of Duty will not be a yearly installment here rather quickly. Next year, I believe they're taking a year off. They're here now with their latest installment, which is not a remake, but maybe a reboot of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. That's probably the best way I could describe it, because I know we were trying to clarify it before we went on air. This is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. It is loosely based off of the previous Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 that was already refreshed and revigorated. The 2009 title, which was made into a 2017 remaster. This is not really dealing anything with that. It's loosely based off of it, but it's actually its own Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. It is now out. A lot of people are interested, of course, in the multiplayer aspect. The single player aspect, the graphics look outstanding, but the story is a little lacking for most people. I see the scores are like middling as far as the single player campaign is concerned, but the effects, these graphics are second to none, really looks good. And of course, the multiplayer looks as fast as ever. Your thoughts on Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 before we head on out?
Well, goodness, I mean, the reboot of a a second part of yeah, I'm having a hard time coming to terms with exactly what it is that they're trying to accomplish. I just don't understand. And maybe it's my lack of understanding of the video game industry. That's entirely possible. I can fully admit that, and I can own that. But I think there is something special about those modern warfare games when it comes to the single player stuff. Before you take it online, anybody else, you play through the whole campaign, and then you're like, can kind of play multiplayer online, or it's fine if it's just me. But I really have enjoyed the the storylines of those single player Modern Warfare games. So I'm just, I guess, I don't understand what they're doing. And because of that, I think if I was, really into first person shooters, I really think I might wait on this title. Having it have already been remastered and then just calling this Modern Warfare 2 and not Modern Warfare 3 or Modern Warfare 2 Redux or Redo or whatever. I don't know. Something feels off about it to me, and I can't quite explain it better than that.
Well, again, when you have a yearly edition that is so popular, such as Call of Duty, which always every year, year after year, leads or is right up there at the top of the charts sales wise, it is something that there's an expectation now that's made each and every time a new iteration comes out. So for me, it's just something that, hey, it's there. You can go ahead and play it if you want, spend $60-$70 on it. I'm just that for me, it's just, again, Call of Duty is Call of Duty. I enjoyed so much Call of Duty, the original Modern Warfare, and then Modern Warfare 2. I thought at that time when it came out in 2009 was really good. It's just evolved beyond what I really want to go ahead and into, even though I love the fast-paced multiplayer shooter aspect of it. But yeah, it's just something for me. I think I can wait until it goes on heavy discount because it's something, again, for you're in Call of Duty or you're not. And there's no in between. It's just you're in or you're out when it comes to Call of Duty.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like I said, I've played through the storyline of the single player, and I'm just not good enough at the game to go online and play multiplayer.
Yeah.
Let's be completely honest. No, I just don't quite understand exactly what they're doing, and like I said, that would be a hard pass for me this time around.
Well, again, it's still millions of dollars at stake here, and being it one of the probably final few, maybe 3 or 4 more editions will go on the PlayStation platform if all goes through with the sale of Activision Blizzard to Microsoft. Then this could be one of the final installments of Call of Duty that appears on a PlayStation platform. I mean, we're still going to see at least 2 or 3 more, I have a feeling, but there will come a day that there probably will not be Call of Duties coming out on the PlayStation. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, for now, it is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. It is out and about. The multiplayer, again, is solid and fast acting and shooting. People are liking it. The campaign is pretty to look at, but same old as far as level design. So you know what you're getting yourself into when it concerns Call of Duty, but please let us know your thoughts on Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. You planning to run with it, or you planning to run away from it? Please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. Want to thank you so much, as always, for participating in all these episodes as we've hit PCC Multiverse 300. Any last thoughts before we head on out?
Gerald, honestly, buddy, a huge congratulations on 300 episodes. Seriously, that's such a huge accomplishment and something that I know you take a lot of pride in the show. And it's truly an accomplishment and something that you should be super proud of. Way to go. Well done.
Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you. Again, Marcus, Jamie, and of course, Josh, who headed up the first 150 plus episodes. Want to thank everybody. TJ, thank everybody for being a part of the show that has been part of it. All the guests, of all the radio stations that play our shows, big shout out to you. And of course, the most important thank you of all is to you, the viewer, and you, the listener, catching us here and going ahead and trying to delve into, once again, the PCC Multiverse and reach our next stop. As we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse for the 300th time, want to thank you so much again for taking the time out of your day for checking us out here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, or again, as we call it right here on Fridays, the PCC Multiverse. So for Melinda Barkhouse-Ross, this is Gerald Glassford. For the 300th time, it's another beautiful day in the paradise, in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great